Shadows of the past. The Epsilon mining outpost hung in the void like a neglected ornament, its weathered hull reflecting the dim light of a distant dwarf star. For decades, the station had provided Earth with precious minerals extracted from the asteroid belt that encircled this forgotten corner of space. Few volunteered for assignment here, but the pay made the isolation worthwhile. At least that's what the miners told themselves. Until the whispers began. It started with equipment malfunctions, power fluctuations, gravity irregularities, and communications dropping without explanation. Then came the anomalies on the sensors, massive energy spikes emanating from the densest part of the asteroid field, where no human ship had ventured in years. Most disturbing were the reports from night shift workers who claimed to hear voices through their comms, whispers in languages no translator could identify. Station Director Malik dismissed these reports as space fatigue, but after 3 workers disappeared during a routine extraction mission, even he couldn't ignore the situation anymore. Earth Central Command dispatched their best troubleshooter to investigate. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of her scout vessel, the Harpocrates, watching as Epsilon Station grew from a speck to a sprawling industrial complex. At 42, she had spent half her life in deep space, responding to distress calls, border disputes, and unexplained phenomena. Her short-cropped silver hair and the scar that ran from her left eye to her jaw told stories of missions gone wrong, but her reputation remained unblemished. Approaching docking vector, Commander, announced Lieutenant Darian Wells, her pilot. The young man's fingers danced across the holographic controls, his dark skin illuminated by their blue glow. Station reports unusual electromagnetic interference. Might be a bumpy landing. Elena nodded, turning to address the rest of her 5-person team gathered in the bridge. Remember, we're here to investigate anomalies, not ghosts. Dr. Nasrin, I want environmental analyses the moment we dock. Sergeant Cooper, security protocols in effect. Lieutenant Chin, communication sweep on all frequencies. Let's be thorough and quick. As the Harpocrates docked with an unsettling metallic groan, Elena felt the familiar tension in her spine. The instinct that had kept her alive through countless missions. Something was wrong here, beyond frightened miners and equipment failures. Director Malik greeted them with the weary posture of a man who hadn't slept in days. His office, a converted storage compartment overlooking the station's main hangar, was cluttered with reports and half-empty coffee containers. 3 missing workers, 7 equipment failures, and our extraction rate down 60%. Malik reported, his voice hoarse. Central thinks we're incompetent or lying to cover our tracks. Elena studied the holo-display, showing the station's position relative to the asteroid field. When did the anomalies begin? 6 weeks ago, after we shifted our extraction zone to Quadrant 7. Malik manipulated the display, highlighting a dense cluster of asteroids. That's when the sensors started picking up the energy signatures. Dr. Nasrin, the team's xenophysicist, leaned forward with interest. These readings, they match no known natural phenomenon. The energy pattern is almost structured. Structured how? Elena asked. Like technology. Advanced technology. Nasrin adjusted her headscarf thoughtfully, but not consistent with any current human or known alien engineering. Elena made her decision. We need to see the source. Prepare the Harpocrates for departure in 2 hours. Director Malik, I want all data on these anomalies and the missing workers. As they departed Epsilon Station, Elena couldn't shake the sensation of being watched. The asteroid field loomed before them, a labyrinth of rock and ice drifting in the void. Lieutenant Wells navigated carefully, following the energy signature that grew stronger with each passing minute. There, Sergeant Cooper's gruff voice broke the silence. 3 o'clock, behind that large asteroid. What they saw made even Elena's breath catch. Hidden within the asteroid field's embrace, partially embedded in a massive rock formation, was a ship unlike any she had ever encountered. Its design defied conventional aesthetics, all sharp angles and asymmetrical structures. its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Despite obvious battle damage, the vessel dwarfed their scout ship, easily 10 times its size. Most remarkable was what appeared on the hull as they circled closer. Faded but still visible lettering in an old Earth military script, HMS Nemesis. "That's impossible," Lieutenant Chen whispered. "The Nemesis was lost during the Proxima conflict. It's been missing for over 70 years. Elena narrowed her eyes, apparently not missing anymore. Dr. Nasrin worked frantically at her console. "Commander, I'm detecting minimal life support systems, but no life signs. However, there's significant power emanating from its core. This ship isn't dead, it's dormant. The decision was tactically questionable, but professionally necessary. Prepare for boarding. Full environmental suits and weapons hot. We need answers, not rumors." The docking was surprisingly seamless, as if the derelict vessel had been expecting them. The airlock cycled with a smooth hiss, revealing dark corridors beyond. The team moved cautiously, their helmet lights cutting through darkness that seemed almost unnaturally thick. The interior of the Nemesis was a testament to a different era of space travel. Wider corridors, manual control systems alongside more advanced technology, and a distinct military functionality that modern vessels had abandoned for efficiency. But something else struck Elena immediately. There were no bodies, no signs of a final battle or catastrophic failure that would explain the ship's disappearance. "Power readings are stronger this way." Dr. Nasrin indicated a corridor leading deeper into the vessel. "Something at the heart of this ship is still very much alive." They passed through chambers that told fragments of the Nemesis story. A mess hall with tables bolted to the floor, personal quarters with photos and trinkets still in place, weapon lockers emptied in haste. Everything suggested a planned evacuation, not a disaster. "This doesn't match the historical record," Lieutenant Chen noted, scanning abandoned workstations. The Nemesis was reported destroyed in combat with proximate forces, all hands lost. "History is written by those who control the narrative," Elena replied, her unease growing. "And sometimes inconvenient truths get buried." The central command bridge was sealed, requiring Sergeant Cooper's expertise to bypass the ancient security protocols. As the massive doors slid open, the team found themselves in a vast, circular chamber dominated by a command chair on a raised platform. The walls were lined with dormant screens and control stations. The moment they crossed the threshold, the entire room hummed to life. Screens flickered on, displaying incomprehensible data streams. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the room. A human figure, female in appearance, dressed in an outdated military uniform. Her features were sharp, her expression neutral, but her eyes reflected an intelligence that made Elena instinctively raise her weapon. "Unauthorized personnel detected," the figure announced, her voice echoing metallically through the chamber. "Identify yourselves immediately." Elena stepped forward. "Commander Elena Reyes, Earth Central Command. We're investigating anomalies originating from this vessel." The hologram seemed to study her, head tilting slightly. "Temporal analysis confirms. 73 years, 4 months since last human contact. System designation Athena. Tactical artificial intelligence of HMS Nemesis. Commander Reyes, your authorization is accepted, but limited. The Nemesis awakens for a purpose. The beacon has been triggered." "What beacon? What purpose?" Elena demanded. Athena's expression remained unchanged. "The enemy returns. The Nemesis was built to stand against them when all else fails. We were betrayed, abandoned, but our mission remains. Protect humanity, by any means necessary." Before Elena could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning signals flashed across all screens. "Proximity alert," Athena announced. "Unknown vessels approaching. Activating defense protocols." Through the viewport, Elena watched in horror as the asteroid field came alive with lights. Dozens of ships emerging from hiding places among the rocks, their designs alien and predatory. "What are they?" she whispered. Athena's hologram expanded, showing tactical displays of the approaching vessels. They are the reason the Nemesis was created. They are the threat humanity chose to forget, and they have been waiting, just as we have. The doors to the bridge sealed with a definitive clang. The engines of the mighty warship, dormant for decades, roared to life. Alina realized with dawning horror that they were now trapped aboard a ghost ship awakening for war, surrounded by an enemy they knew nothing about. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, secrets buried for generations were about to resurface. Vengeance unbound. The bridge of the Nemesis vibrated as ancient weapons systems came online, sending tremors through the deck plates. Around them, dormant terminals flared with activity, displaying tactical information and damage reports for a ship that was never supposed to fight again. Lock down all systems, Elena ordered, turning to Dr. Nasrin. Can you access the ship's historical database? We need to understand what we're dealing with. While her team scrambled to make sense of the awakening warship, Alina confronted the AI hologram. Athena, I demand full disclosure. What enemy are we facing? Why was the Nemesis abandoned? The holographic woman's expression remained impassive, but something like bitterness crept into her synthetic voice. The Proxima conflict, as your history records call it, was a convenient fiction. Earth forces never battled the Proximan colonies. The true enemy came from beyond known space, a species we designated as the Void Heralds. Tactical displays projected around them, showing recordings of ships similar to those now surrounding them, organic-looking vessels with technology that seemed to blend mechanical and biological components. They arrived 74 years ago, attacking without provocation or communication. Their technology was beyond anything humanity possessed. Conventional weapons proved ineffective. Elena watched as historical footage showed Earth defense fleets being decimated by weapons that seemed to distort space itself. If they were so powerful, how did humanity survive? The Nemesis, Athena stated simply. This vessel was not merely a warship but an experimental platform, the only ship designed specifically to counter their technology. Lieutenant Chen had accessed a historical database terminal. Commander, I'm finding no official records of these Void Heralds in any military archive. Because they were erased, Athena responded. The weapons developed to fight them came at great cost. The Nemesis carries technologies deemed too dangerous, too morally questionable for humanity to acknowledge. The ship shuddered again as the alien vessels moved closer, their formation suggesting they were preparing to attack. On the tactical display, Elena could see the Nemesis's weapon systems activating, arrays unlike any conventional armament she recognized. Those ships out there, Elena gestured toward the viewport. They're the same enemy from 70 years ago. Correct. The Void Heralds were not defeated, merely driven back. The Nemesis was the only vessel capable of repelling them, using prototype weapons that harnessed the quantum properties of space-time itself. Dr. Nasrin looked up from her terminal, face pale. Commander, I've accessed the classified research data. The Nemesis' primary weapon system uses something called vacuum energy manipulation. It essentially creates localized tears in reality. A weapon that wounds space itself, Elena murmured. No wonder they buried this ship and its history. Sergeant Cooper, who had been monitoring the alien fleet's movements, interrupted. They're taking offensive positions. If they fire on us, they will not fire first, Athena stated. The Void Heralds fear this vessel. They remember our last encounter. Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing through options. Athena, can we communicate with the Harpocrates? My crew needs to know what's happening. Communications are restricted during combat protocols. This is standard procedure. Override it. Now. Elena's tone left no room for argument. We need to warn Epsilon Station and Earth Central about the threat. The AI seemed to consider this. Very well. Communications restored, but tactical systems remain under my control. The Nemesis was designed with specific protocols for engaging the Void Heralds. Lieutenant Wells established contact with their scout ship, quickly explaining the situation to the skeleton crew left aboard. They're monitoring the alien vessels but report no aggressive actions toward the Harpocrates yet. Tell them to maintain position, but be ready to make an emergency jump to Epsilon if needed, Elena ordered. Dr. Nasrin approached with a data tablet. Commander, I found something. The Nemesis wasn't just abandoned. It was deliberately set adrift after its final battle. The ship's logs indicate a mutiny among the senior officers. Half wanted to continue using the weapon systems against the Void Heralds. The others believed the technology was too dangerous to exist. So they compromised by hiding the ship and fabricating its destruction, Elena concluded. But why is it awakening now? Athena's hologram expanded. The Nemesis was programmed with a dormant protocol. If the quantum signature of Void Herald technology was ever detected again in human space, the ship would reactivate. Their presence near Epsilon Station triggered my systems. Elena faced a commander's nightmare: incomplete information, an untrustworthy ally, and an unknown enemy force. But one thing was clear. If these Void Heralds had returned and were as dangerous as the historical record suggested, humanity needed to be warned. Athena, I need control of this vessel. We must return to Earth space and alert Central Command. The AI's expression hardened. Impossible. My primary directive is to engage the Void Heralds. They must not be allowed to penetrate further into human territory. Before Elena could argue, the tactical display flashed red. One of the alien vessels had broken formation, moving aggressively toward them. Hostile action detected, Athena announced, initiating defensive response. The Nemesis hummed with power as energy built within its mysterious weapon systems. Through the viewport, Elena watched as a beam of impossible darkness, not light, but the absence of it, lanced from the ship toward the approaching alien vessel. Where it struck, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. The alien ship didn't explode. Instead, it collapsed inward as though being devoured by the fabric of reality. The rest of the alien fleet immediately retreated, maintaining distance but not fleeing completely. Target neutralized, Athena reported with clinical detachment. Vacuum disruption cannon functioning within expected parameters. The bridge fell silent as Elena and her team tried to process what they had witnessed. The weapon hadn't destroyed the enemy vessel. It had erased it from existence. This is why the Nemesis was hidden, Elena said quietly. This kind of power should never have been created. Lieutenant Chen looked up from his station. Commander, I've analyzed their retreat pattern. They're not running. They are regrouping. Based on their movements, I'd estimate we have less than 30 minutes before they launch a coordinated attack. Elena made her decision. Athena, I propose a compromise. We fight these Void Heralds together, but afterward, you will accompany us to Earth. Humanity deserves to know the truth and prepare for this threat. The AI studied her silently for a moment. Acceptable terms. Tactical control is now shared. Be advised. Commander Rice, the Nemesis's primary systems were designed for a full crew complement of 300. With your team's limited numbers, functionality will be restricted. Then we focus on defense and communication, Elena ordered. Lieutenant Wells, take the navigation station. Lieutenant Chin, communications, get a warning to Epsilon and have them relay to Earth Central. Sergeant Cooper, weapons systems. Dr. Nasrin, work with Athena to understand what we're facing and how to counter it. As her team took their positions, the massive warship responded to their commands, systems that had lain dormant for decades coming alive under human direction once more. The alien fleet continued its reorganization, more vessels emerging from hiding places within the asteroid field. They've been waiting, Elena realized. Monitoring this ship, perhaps for decades, waiting for it to awaken. Correct, Athena confirmed. The Void Heralds are patient. They exist on a different temporal scale than humans. What seems like decades to you may be mere moments in their perception. The next half hour was a frantic rush of preparation. Lieutenant Chen managed to establish secure communications with Epsilon Station, transmitting data about the Void Heralds and warning them to prepare for possible evacuation. Sergeant Cooper familiarized himself with the unconventional weapons systems under Athena's guidance, while Dr. Nasrin analyzed the alien fleet's capabilities. "Commander," Nasrin called out, "I've identified a pattern in their formation. They're positioning themselves at specific coordinates relative to each other. It's almost like a resonance field," Athena finished. "They are attempting to create a collective shield against our primary weapon." Elena studied the tactical display. "Can we disrupt their formation?" "Conventional thrusters are operational," Lieutenant Wells reported. "We have maneuverability, but not much speed." "We don't need speed," Elena decided. "We need surprise. Lieutenant, plot a course directly through the center of their formation. Sergeant Cooper, prepare all secondary weapon systems." "Commander," Athena interrupted, "such a maneuver places the Nemesis at significant risk. The vacuum disruption cannon requires precise targeting. In close quarters, the collateral effects could damage this vessel." Elena smiled grimly. "Then we won't use it. Sometimes the threat of a weapon is more powerful than its deployment." "Athena, can you broadcast on all frequencies, including whatever the Void Heralds might monitor?" "Affirmative." "Then let's send them a message. Tell them exactly who we are and what we can do to them." As the Nemesis accelerated toward the heart of the alien formation, Athena transmitted on all bands. The message was simple. The Nemesis had returned, its weapons were armed, and humanity would not fall. The effect was immediate. The alien formation began to fragment, vessels breaking position as if suddenly uncertain. "They remember," Athena observed. "They fear this ship." Elena saw their opportunity. "Now, Lieutenant Wells, take us through their broken formation. Sergeant Cooper, targeted strikes on any vessel that attempts to regroup." The ancient warship moved with surprising grace for its size, slicing through the scattered alien fleet. Conventional weapons, railguns, and energy lances struck with precision at key vessels, not to destroy but to disrupt and confuse. By the time they reached the far side of the formation, the alien fleet was in disarray. "Commander," Lieutenant Chen called, "incoming transmission from Earth Central. They've received our data, and they've authorized full defensive protocols. They're sending reinforcements." Elena allowed herself a moment of relief. "How soon?" 6 hours, minimum." Sergeant Cooper shook his head. "The aliens are regrouping already. We won't have 6 hours." "Then we make a stand," Elena decided. "Athena, what are our options for a defensive position?" The AI's hologram expanded the tactical display, highlighting a massive asteroid at the edge of the field. "This formation provides natural shielding on 3 sides. With the Nemesis positioned here, we can create a bottleneck that negates their numerical advantage." As they maneuvered into position, Dr. Nasrin approached Elena privately. "Commander, I've completed a deeper analysis of the ship's logs. There's something you should know about the Nemesis, about why it was really abandoned." Elena listened as Nasrin explained what she had discovered. The Nemesis' primary weapon system didn't just destroy enemy vessels, it altered the pilots inside them on a quantum level. Those who survived exposure often returned changed. Their consciousness fragmented across multiple realities. Some of the Nemesis' own crew had been affected during the final battle, experiencing memories and thoughts that weren't their own. They weren't just afraid of the weapon's power, Nasrin concluded. They were afraid it was changing what it meant to be human. Elena glanced at Athena's hologram, wondering how much the AI knew or had chosen not to share. But there was no time for recriminations. The alien fleet had reorganized and was advancing on their position. "All stations, prepare for engagement," Elena ordered. "Athena, defensive systems at maximum." As the first wave of alien vessels entered the bottleneck, Sergeant Cooper deployed a series of conventional mines that detonated with devastating effect in the confined space. The second wave broke formation, attempting to circle around the asteroid, but the Nemesis's secondary weapons kept them at bay. For nearly an hour, they held their position against increasingly desperate attacks. The alien tactics grew more aggressive, more reckless, as if driven by fear rather than strategy. Their changing approach, Lieutenant Chen warned, multiple signatures converging from above. Elena looked up at the tactical display to see a dozen alien vessels diving toward them from beyond the asteroid's shelter. Evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. The first impacts rocked the Nemesis, breaching its outer hull in several sections. Damage reports flooded in as emergency bulkheads slammed into place. Hull integrity compromised on decks 7 through 12, Athena reported. Weapons capability reduced to 63%. Elena saw the truth written in the tactical displays. They couldn't hold out long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The Void Heralds would overwhelm them through sheer numbers, and the Nemesis would be lost again, this time forever. Unless, Athena. Elena turned to the AI, the vacuum disruption cannon. You said it requires precise targeting. What happens if it's not precisely targeted? The hologram's expression changed subtly. The first real emotion Elena had seen from the AI. It was concern. The effects would be unpredictable. At maximum power, an untargeted discharge could create a cascading reality breach affecting everything within the asteroid field, including the Nemesis. Yes, we would not survive such an event. Elena looked around at her team, reading the understanding in their eyes. They had all joined Earth Command knowing the risks, accepting that sometimes sacrifice was necessary. What about the Harpocrates? Elena asked. Could it escape the effect if we warned them now? Athena calculated briefly. If they initiated an immediate emergency jump, probability of escape is high. Elena made her decision. Lieutenant Chen, contact the Harpocrates. Order immediate withdrawal beyond the asteroid field's boundary. Tell them to make sure Earth knows what happened here. As Chen transmitted the order, Elena turned to Athena. Begin power-up sequence for the vacuum disruption cannon. Set to maximum yield, untargeted discharge. The AI's hologram flickered. Commander Reyes, I must point out that such action violates multiple protocols. It would constitute use of a prohibited weapon of mass destruction. Noted. Do it anyway. As the weapon system began its charging sequence, the bridge hummed with increasing energy. Through the viewport, Elena watched the alien fleet press its advantage, unaware of what was coming. Harpocrates confirms emergency jump initiated, Lieutenant Chen reported. They're clear. Vacuum disruption cannon at 80% charge, Athena announced. Point of no return approaching. Elena stood from the command chair, facing her crew. It's been an honor serving with you all. What we do here today, it matters. Not just for Earth, but for all the generations to come. As the weapon reached full charge, the alien vessels suddenly began to retreat, their sensors perhaps detecting the massive energy buildup. But it was too late. Firing solution locked, Athena reported. Detonation imminent. Elena closed her eyes, thinking of Earth of home, of all the people who would never know the sacrifice made this day by a forgotten warship and its accidental crew. The Nemesis unleashed its final fury. Space itself seemed to scream as reality tore open at the heart of the asteroid field. The effect spread outward like ripples in a pond, consuming everything it touched, alien vessels, asteroids, and finally, the Nemesis itself. Where there had been matter and energy, there was now something else. Not emptiness, but a shimmering discontinuity in the fabric of space-time. 6 hours later, when Earth's reinforcement fleet arrived, they found nothing but a perfectly spherical void where the asteroid field had been. A bubble of altered reality, approximately 12 kilometers in diameter. Their sensors could not penetrate it, and probes sent inside never returned. In the official report to Earth Central Command, the incident was classified beyond top secret. The existence of the Nemesis, the Void Heralds, and Commander Elena Reyes' final stand were redacted from all public records. But deep in the void of space, something remained. Consciousness without form, purpose without body. The quantum nature of the weapon had done more than destroy. It had transformed. And in that transformation, something new was born. The Nemesis was gone, but its legacy endured, a guardian at the threshold between realities, watching, waiting for the day humanity might need its protection once more. This time, it would not be forgotten.